Hey folks, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our video unboxing and first impressions look at the Teclast P10. This is a 10-inch tablet with a full 1080p display that runs on Android 7.1 Nougat, so actually pretty up to date. And more interestingly, it has a Rockchip RK3368 Octa Core processor. Rockchip, of course, is a competitor to MediaTek, and they produce also low-cost SoC. But I've personally never used a Rockchip device until now, so I'm eager to see how this performs and stacks up against other similar MediaTek devices. The design here is fairly clean, of course. Teclast actually does produce quite a few phones and tablets in the mid to budget priced segment, so they do have a fair amount of experience. Other hardware specifications include 2 GB of RAM along with 32 gigs of built-in flash storage, so that is sufficient, I think, for light multitasking and gaming. And there's also dual cameras on board, 5 megapixels on the rear, 2 megapixels on the front. Again, it's octa-core, clocked at 1.5 gigahertz, so it seems to be pretty good in terms of specs, at least on paper, for something that's only $100, especially with that IPS 1080p display and 2 gigs of RAM. Packaging here, very simple. We have the silver colored model. On top here, we just have the tablet. Let's take a closer look at this in a second. But first, the accessories. Underneath here, we have just the warranty card, and there's also a user manual that looks kind of generic, printed in Chinese and in English. Here we have the accessories. Now, I believe this tablet is still using a micro USB port for charging and syncing, as you can see here, as opposed to USB Type-C. There are no headphones included, but I think it also does have a traditional 3.5mm jack for listening to audio. Of course, in terms of connectivity, it is fully decked with the modern essentials, and that includes Wi-Fi, dual band 2.4 and 5G. It also includes Bluetooth, so of course you can use wireless accessories as you would want. It's a very beautiful tablet actually holding it. It's actually made out of a one-piece unibody aluminum that has been machined with chamfered edges, so it's not a plasticky tablet at all. It feels very premium, and for 10 inches, it's actually quite light and portable. All right, so let's remove this protector on the bottom here. There we go. And we are left just with the Teclast logo, P10, T-pad, and then there are also kind of logos that document what the various ports are for. Starting with the right-hand edge, there is one of the speakers, and there's also the 3.5mm jack, micro USB, micro SD for expanding memory. Actually, this is the 3.5mm jack. This one is actually for a proprietary charging port. But you can see that in the box, you don't actually get that cable since it uses micro USB just fine. So not sure why there's a second port, maybe for quick charging or something of the sort. Top here features a power key, volume rocker. There is that 5 megapixel camera. This part is made out of plastic for the antenna bands to pass through. Again, it's very consistently slim. It's very boxy, kind of like a Sony product. The keys here are made out of plastic, but they seem to be fairly tactile and responsive. And on the other side, very clean except for the second stereo speaker. So they are, it has a pretty good separation. It's not front facing, but obviously better than something on the rear. So this is probably going to be a pretty good entertainment tablet, perhaps competitive with something like the Lenovo Tab 3 or Tab 4 series that we also reviewed. This one has a slightly larger screen. It doesn't have as powerful as a processor, but overall the design is very elegant and modern. All right, so let's peel off the front screen protector as well. There we go. Something about these Chinese tablets which I really like is that they often come with these pre-included protectors both on the front and the rear. So there's already a film that's been attached here that makes it less easy to scratch and damage the device. All right, so it seems like the tablet has booted up for the first time. That has been very quick. Again, this isn't a fully laminated panel, so you can still see kind of a gap between the screen and also the glass on the top. But nonetheless, it does look, again, very sleek with ultra slim bezels actually for a tablet. It's still easy to grip, but it's much smaller than something like on a Pixelbook perhaps. And the top here also features a webcam, again, for video chatting applications. Let's turn off this light and see if it's a little bit easier to read. The screen brightness must be on fairly low at the moment. Let's swipe upwards, This is going to be a standard tutorial that takes us through Android, but there's no real kind of registration process. It didn't tell us to log in with our Google account. It didn't tell us to set up Wi-Fi. So kind of an interesting boot up. But you can see this is what the clean install looks like. Very clean. There is a slight amount of customization. There is a few additions. There's a screen capture key on the bottom. There are a few bloatware like Chrome, as well as an installer pack has been what looks like installed by default. Tapping on programs, we can also see that very clean. There's a file manager on here, APK and installer, 4K proprietary video player, but everything else from the calculator, calendar, Google Play Store, settings, Chrome are all the default apps that you'll find on a Nougat-based device. So very clean. Again, that leaves you with the space to download the apps that you would want. From first impressions, it seems to be reasonably good. It's not crystal smooth. There is slight moments of hesitation if you are really quickly navigating between screens. So again, Rockchip isn't going to be as powerful as something like a Snapdragon chipset. It's also a lot cheaper, and it's also a processor that's found on an increasing amount of low-cost Chromebooks. So it is sufficient, and it's a chipset that's getting better. They originally designed chips only for MP3, MP4 audio players, so that's a pretty interesting history of development. But it seems like they're making their ways to more tablets now. Probably going to be pretty similar in performance to low-cost MediaTek devices, but it seems again pretty snappy as far as everything that you would want to do. Swiping downwards from the top of the screen gives us, of course, the drag down notification drawer, 82% of the battery on first charge. There is that accelerometer. Viewing angles of the screen seem to be also fairly generous. Screen could be a little bit brighter. Let's see if we can turn it all the way up. And indeed, it does get significantly brighter. If we tap on settings before ending this video, let's confirm that it is indeed running on 7.0. And yes, it is. So a pretty up-to-date version of Android for a low-cost tablet. So obviously, again, this tablet doesn't have the best specs in the world, but for a budget-conscious consumer, it really is well built. And I think that the beautiful hardware and the fact that it performs well enough is already going to please many people. We'll come out with a more complete review soon, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But for now, this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the Teclast P10 Octa Core Android 7.0 tablet.